Seems to me like you expect to win everywhere that you go now, because I hear that frustration, and I know that frustration because when we were so dominant in our cars and you showed up to the racetrack, the only thing that you thought about was winning, and you knew that you could do it, you knew that your team could do it. Is that a correct assessment of where you and your team are right now?
Yeah, it's pretty dang accurate. Yeah, the last 2 weeks have been rough post race. I mean, I guess, yeah, the last 2 weeks have been kind of rough post race for sure.
Yeah,
it's a wild thing, because I remember back 3 or 4 years ago, or even just my rookie year, right? Like, I was over the moon excited, like we're all high-fiving each other if we got a top 15, right?
Yeah.
And now if we can't, I mean, like, anything but winning is just, it's weird how that changes. It's something I'm gonna have to kind of balance, right? I mean, the last 2 weeks were great weeks. Like, it isn't until like I get to talk to Billy afterwards on like Mondays, like, we went from like 18th in points to 5th over the last 2 weeks, and all these other things that are really important, right? But yeah, as a race car driver, points are great. Getting yourself set up for this, for the regular season stretch is good, but we all do this to win, right? So that's the part when you can't capitalize, that's frustrating.
Yeah, so you've won championships in the Xfinity Series, you've won races in the Cup Series, and then you make the switch and you go over to 2311 and pair up with Billy and Denny and Bubba and everybody over there. You go right in, and I think everybody expected you to go over there and do well. And I think when I watched this year, it's like you went through last year and said, okay, we know we can do it now. We go into this year. So when you have those moments like you did the last couple weeks, and you're racing with Larson, and then last week you're racing with Denny, how do you get over all that? Are you a quick get over it guy, or are you a guy that dwells on it and thinks about it constantly, and has to be your crew chief has to come in and say, look, man, knock it off. We've had a great week. Because I heard Chris tell that to Denny last week. He said, hey, I don't know if you've heard this, but he gave him a speech on the radio that I thought was pretty cool. And a lot of people don't realize the mental communication that comes between, usually it's the driver crew chief. Is Billy that guy for you, your crew chief?
Yeah, he was, we didn't really talk about the situation a lot till like post-race for sure, but it pretty quickly, once we lost that track position, I was getting pretty frustrated.
Yeah.
I was encountering some drivers that were basically just running my line the last 80 laps and just kind of got stuck. So that gets you frustrated, right? When you know that, especially in my situation, I watched Christopher restart behind me, drive by me, and I'm like, okay, if I can just stay with him, maybe I can be close to him and figure out what he's doing, whatever it was. And I watched him just drive away, and I got stuck behind the people he just cut up through. So that can get very frustrating. But yes, I think Billy was a lot more quick to get me to snap out of it this week, because he was pretty freshened up on how to handle it based off of Vegas last week.
Yeah.
But I was pretty tore up about it, to be honest.
Yeah. Both weeks it looked to me like you had a pretty versatile car. And early in the race at Phoenix, you found that middle lane, third lane.
Yeah, I found it too early, honestly.
I know.
I went up there and ran it, and then I'm like, I was hoping it was just going to be like break even. I was going to save it for once I got a little closer to Denny, but it was like 2 or 3 tenths faster.
It was a lot.
Well, I might as well just go back to the bottom, because I know the next lap he's going to go up there, and he did, and so I just waited for a little bit longer to use it again. I guess I didn't actually use it to pass those cars, maybe the 43.
It was the apron in 1 and 2.
Yeah, there's I think you're pretty familiar with how to use it, but
yeah, that was a lot of apron.
Christopher pretty much schooled us on how to properly use it last Sunday. In the moment, I didn't know how much faster he was. I didn't know he was 8 seconds back and just running insane laps. So I think there's something to learn from that for sure. I think it's me and Denny talked about it some. Like, I think what he did there is some of it's car, but a lot of it could, potentially just be technique, right? So it's something we'll certainly be trying to be more in tune with when, we return.
So is Denny also in this process on a week-to-week basis? Because from the outside looking in, you listen to Denny and you hear him talk, and you hear him say all the things that he says, and always mixing it up and stirring it up. But he seems like a very involved leader.
Yes.
Is he somebody? Is that a correct assessment of that
yes,
situation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always sitting in the meetings, always giving his feedback on me or Bubba's day, or just kind of like how he thinks the race played out, or just shedding a light in his opinion on, who made the right calls or what strategy played out. Like he just, when you've done it as long as he has, and this, I think you look at it a little bit differently than maybe myself or Bubba would. He just has a lot of experience.
That's good to have.
Absolutely. And, maybe not necessarily so much after Phoenix, but like, Vegas and how I was racing Kyle and all that sort of stuff. There was a lot of good tips he gave me there. I didn't know if he was going to give me grief about when we got together in turn 1 and 2, but we definitely didn't get better as the race went on. And I think some of the damage we got from that spin kind of set us back a little bit.
When I owned my race teams, my wife was never more mad at me than she was in Canada one year. I drove in and I was like 7th, and it was one of those moments where it was just drive in there and just push the guy in front of you, hoping for something to happen. Well, the something that happened was spinning my own 2 cars out. I was driving for RCR and spun those 2 cars out. And the next thing you knew, Robbie Gordon and Marcus Ambrose had run into each other, and they black flagged Robbie Gordon. He spun Marcus Ambrose out, and I wound up winning the race. And I was standing there in victory lane, and my wife and Josh are sitting on the wall, and I'm thinking to myself, well, why don't they come over here? They wouldn't speak to me. And she was so mad at me for a long time, but I always thought that was one of my favorite wins, just because of the fact that I was able to beat my own cars, spin my own cars out, and it was the perfect tool to tell somebody you would do whatever you had to do
to win. Yeah.
How do you think that would go over? Is that what Denny expects from your side?
I've got the feeling pretty early on from Bubba that he tries to use Denny's ownership in the team against him.
Yeah.
I try to save it for when it matters.
What do you mean
right?
by that? Used it against him?
Well, like, if you're in Denny's shoes, right, you don't want to tear up your own car, and you don't want to wreck another one of your own cars, right? Because I feel like he's aware with how expensive this stuff can get, right?
Yeah.
So
I'd wreck the crap out of my cars if I had to win. I would just.
I've never honestly felt like Denny's really ever cut me brakes or been like more fair with me. He races really hard, but I feel like it's something that's kind of shared amongst, I'd say, majority of the Toyota drivers, that we all race each other probably at like the 95th percentile and don't go any further than that, because it's not worth taking that risk and having something go wrong. Kind of like it unfortunately did. I think, Denny's situation, I knew his car was pretty loose. He'd been kind of fighting it. I think it just kind of surprised him when that happened.
Yeah, he just lost it. But I think it's an interesting conversation because of the fact that it's so hard to pass and race and do all the things that you need to do. So when you get that position, it's like I don't think for me, I would just kind of black out and lose my mind and just do whatever I had to do. But it's such a different world.
Hey race fans, thanks for watching our video. For all NASCAR on Fox News content and the best clips from Fox Sports, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.